Let me tell you the story of Raju Sinha. Raju, a hard-working fruit seller, had come from his small village, Devpura, toward the city. In the Rimjim area of Jharkhand, near a hospital on the city's edge, he set up his fruit stall. Every morning, he opened the shop at 7 and sold vegetables and fruits until 9 at night before returning home. Raju's home was about 12 kilometers from the city. Every day he would bring fruits, arrange his stall, and then put on his motorcycle sandals to head back home. One day, around 8 in the evening, while Raju was closing the shop, his son Ankit came running. He had no shoes on, his hair was flying in the wind, and he shouted, "Papa, Papa, come quickly, someone is here!" Raju's wife Sudha, who was helping their son, immediately ran out, but by then Ankit had fainted on the road. They lifted him and placed him in a room. When Ankit regained consciousness, he quietly said, "Papa." There were voices. They were calling me. This incident took place in 2017, and seeing the fear in Ankit's eyes made Sudha's heart tremble. Raju thought maybe these were just distant sounds from the fields, but they decided to move to a new house. Their new home was near the hospital, a 3-room flat just 200 meters from their shop. At first, everything seemed normal. Ankit went to school, Raju managed the shop, and Sudha took care of the house. This continued for 3 months, but then one evening, everything changed. Ankit's grandfather, who had come from a distant village, arrived at night. After having dinner, he went to sleep. The next day, while Raju and his brother were at the shop, Ankit returned from school and then left for tuition. Around 6:30 p.m., Ankit came back home. At this time, Sudha and his grandfather were at home. They were sitting in the hall, talking. Suddenly, the grandfather said, "Listen, listen, do you hear a sound?" Sudha also listened. Ankit was quiet, he didn't hear anything. Sudha said, "Maybe people are working in the fields. That's why we can hear noises." But as soon as she said this, the electricity went out. Complete darkness fell, and simultaneously, the eerie sound of a dog echoed from the distant fields. The grandfather said, "I'll check from the balcony." From the balcony, he looked toward the fields. About 70 meters away, in a certain area, as he concentrated, 2 faint voices came. But there was no one in the field. 2 minutes of silence. The grandfather took a biddy, traditional cigarette, from his pocket and asked Sudha for a match. As soon as he lit it, someone whispered near his ear, "We live here, come to us." It was a woman's voice. The grandfather turned to look, but no one was there. Sudha trembled with fear. The grandfather lit the biddy, returned to the room, and said, "Someone stood by me and said something. Seems like a prank." This was the first sign that their new house was not normal. Ankit, just 10 years old, couldn't stay alone in his room due to fear. He often slept in his uncle's room. But gradually, things became even scarier. One afternoon, Raju and his brother were at the shop. Sudha was working in the kitchen, and Ankit was studying in his room. Suddenly, the room temperature dropped, and Ankit felt that someone was in the room. As soon as he opened the door, cold air brushed past him. He ran to his mother and said, "Mom, someone just stepped into the room." Sudha smiled and said, "Son, it's all your imagination. Focus on your studies." But by night, the noises increased. Sounds of utensils falling, brooms toppling, and strange footsteps. Sudha often heard them, but never saw anyone. Neighbors warned that no one had stayed in this house for more than 6 months. Sudha asked the landlord. The landlord just laughed and said, "You all are hardworking. Your fruit business is going well. Don't pay attention to others' stories." Sudha felt some relief. Time passed. Ankit's sister was born. There was new joy in the house. But the strange incidents didn't stop. One night, the electricity went out. There was no light in the room. Ankit saw their father's old motorcycle, kept in the room, start on its own. Beams of light spread across the room. Then the room temperature dropped again, and there were loud knocks on the main door. Terrified, Ankit hid. A dark shadow slowly entered the room. It was the shadow of a woman, as if someone had tried to strangle her. Ankit screamed loudly and ran out into the rain. The next day, Raju and Sudha realized something was wrong. They immediately called a magician. The magician inspected every room and stopped at one place, a rectangular structure in the corner of a room. The magician said, "There is a spirit here. This spirit is in your house and has already harmed your newborn daughter. Leave this room immediately." After performing a ritual and making talismans, the magician said, "Always wear these talismans around your neck." 2 days later, Raju and his family found a new room. But when they looked at the fields behind, they realized that once a husband and wife had lived there. The woman was pregnant, and the husband, in a quarrel, killed her and buried her in the field. Her spirit was still wandering in their house, and if Raju and Sudha had heeded the warnings of neighbors and the landlord, perhaps their daughter would be alive today. We have seen that Ankit and his family had moved into the new house, but the house was no longer safe for them. Ankit's sister Maya had been born. Despite her frail body and fatigue, Sudha tried to manage the household. Raju stayed busy at the shop all day. Ankit was no longer an only child. His little sister was with him. At first, everything was fine, but after a few weeks, strange incidents began happening at night. One night, Ankit was studying in his room. It was raining outside. Suddenly, the room temperature dropped sharply. He felt as if someone was standing near his feet. He looked and saw his sister's cradle gently rocking. "Mom, Maya is moving," Ankit shouted loudly. Sudha ran in, but no one was in the room. The cradle was rocking on its own, and the lights in the room flickered strangely. Sudha called Raju, but he was busy at the shop. They thought maybe it was just a gust of wind or the effect of their fatigue. But that same night, Ankit saw that same rectangular structure glowing faintly in the corner. The glow was strange, blue and cold. Ankit tried to touch it gently, and then he heard a woman's hissing voice. "We won't let you go. I will take you too." Terrified, Ankit ran out of his room. The following week, Sudha noticed that utensils in the kitchen were falling on their own. The broom seemed to move by itself. At night, soft whispers came from the children's rooms. Raju asked the neighbors again. All of them gave the same warning. No one stays in this house for long. Something here forces everyone to flee. Sudha asked the landlord, and this time he also warned them strangely. There has always been a spirit in this house. The spirit of the woman in your home was pregnant, and what happened to her left a permanent negative effect here. You must be careful with your children. But Raju thought it was all just scary talk. One afternoon, Raju and Sudha were at the shop. Ankit was home alone. He finished his homework and was putting his books away. Suddenly, the room temperature dropped again. A black shadow appeared on the wall. It was the same woman's shadow. She moved forward slowly without raising her hands, but as if preparing to strangle. Ankit's heart raced. He screamed, but no sound reached outside. He looked toward the window, and in the rainwater he saw strange faces. These faces appeared in the field behind their house. Ankit lifted his sister from the cradle and ran to the kitchen. Sudha noticed that Ankit could hardly sleep at night due to fear. Every night he slept in his uncle's room, and sometimes he came to his parents' room. One night, Sudha saw Ankit standing near the door, speaking quietly. "Why are you here? Leave me alone." Sudha asked, "Ankit, who are you talking to?" But he remained silent, terrified. After a few weeks, the magician was called again. He inspected the house and found that behind the rectangular structure, something was buried in the ground. The magician said, "There is the spirit of a woman in this house. She left immense anger and fear when she died. This spirit only troubles children and pregnant women. Your new daughter Maya is also at risk." The magician gave them talismans and warned that they would have to leave the house, or worse would happen. Raju now realized that the warnings of the neighbors and the landlord were true. If they had left the house earlier, Maya and Ankit's safety could have been ensured. But the fear was not over yet. Ankit now felt every day that someone would not let him leave his room, and every night he heard the same woman's voice. "We are with you. Always." Ankit was no longer 10 years old. He was now almost 11. Maya, his little sister, had started walking and talking, but the strange incidents in the house had intensified. One night, when Raju and Sudha returned home after closing the shop, Ankit was sleeping in his sister's room. Sudha noticed that Ankit's eyes were wide and terrified. He was staring at the window as if someone was standing there. "Ankit, what's wrong?" Sudha asked softly. "Mom, there, she's here again." Ankit said, "The black woman's shadow, standing near Maya." Sudha went to the bed, but found no one there. Yet the air in the room suddenly turned cold. The bedsheet moved on its own. Raju realized that now the house had crossed the limits of mere fear. The next night, Raju and Sudha were sleeping in their room when suddenly the electricity went out. Ankit saw the cradle moving on its own, and in the corner of the room, that same blue, cold glow appeared. The shadow slowly moved toward Maya. Terrified, Ankit screamed and ran to his uncle's room. His uncle saw the cold air in the room, the rocking cradle, and the door opening by itself. "Is this really happening?" his uncle said, trembling with fear. Ankit explained that the woman's shadow was trying to touch Maya. Raju now understood that this was no longer just fear, it was a real danger. Raju and his family called the magician again. The magician inspected the house and found that buried in the foundation was the body of the woman and her child, still under the influence of the evil spirit. The magician said, "The wrath of this spirit is extremely dangerous. To stop it, you must either leave this house or perform a full cleansing and ritual here. But remember, if delayed, it will reach your children." Raju realized that it was already too late. One night, when Raju and Sudha were at the shop, Ankit was home alone. He was sitting in his room studying when suddenly the room temperature dropped. He saw the same rectangular structure glowing in blue light in the corner. Then the black shadow appeared near Maya's cradle. Terrified, Ankit jumped from the bed, holding his sister. "I will not leave you," the woman's voice hissed. "You will always stay with us." Ankit clutched his sister and ran quickly toward the stairs. He was screaming in the rain, but the sound didn't carry outside. Sudha realized that they now had to take action against their fear. At 3 a.m, when Raju returned home, they began performing a ritual in the house using the talismans and chants given by the magician. The magician had instructed, "Place talismans and recite mantras on every wall, corner, and the foundation. To defeat this spirit, you must reach the foundation of the house." Sudha and Raju placed holy incense, mantras, and talismans throughout the house. Ankit and Maya were kept in a safe room. After the ritual, the chill in the rooms lessened. The shadow disappeared. Maya was now safe, and Ankit felt relieved. But the magician warned, "This spirit will never fully disappear. This house will always be at risk. You must remain vigilant." Ankit understood that now, staying awake and alert was their only protection. In this part, we have seen that the danger was not limited to voices and shadows, but had reached the children and the family. In part 4, we will see Ankit's bravery, even more terrifying night incidents in the house, and the revelation of the spirit's true intentions. Ankit was now 12 years old. Maya's laughter could still be heard in the house, but the nights were never quiet anymore. At 12:30 one night, strange events began in the house. The cradle rocked on its own, the lights in the room flickered, and that same blue glow appeared in the corner. Ankit sensed that the woman's shadow had become even more cruel. He quietly picked up Maya and moved toward the door. Then he heard, "We still have to play with you. We won't let you go." Terrified, Ankit grabbed his sister and ran toward the kitchen, where Sudha kept her safe. Raju now realized that the spirit could not be completely stopped with just rituals and talismans. He consulted the magician, who said, "You must go to the room where this spirit is most active. You have to confront it there. If you show fear, it will stay with you forever." Raju decided that it was no longer time to leave or run from the house. He prepared his family and moved toward that room during the night. Despite his fear, Ankit went with his father. As soon as they entered the room, cold air and the blue glow spread everywhere. The woman's shadow slowly began to take shape. Her eyes glowed like molten fire, and her face was full of deep anger. Raju recited mantras and held the talisman in his hand. "You cannot stay here with us." The shadow screamed loudly, and the walls of the room seemed to bend. Ankit realized that Maya's room was the spirit's main center. Summoning his courage, he stepped forward with the talisman toward the shadow. "You may be afraid of me, but no one can stop us," Ankit shouted. The magician had already warned that this spirit was full of anger and unresolved grief. Ankit saw that the woman had been pregnant, and she had left behind dark forces in memory of her child. Ankit understood that if he acknowledged the spirit's grief and tried to calm it, the family could be safe. In a soft voice, he said, "We understand that you are sorrowful, but you cannot harm our sister or mother." The woman's shadow paused for a moment. The the cold air in the room gradually eased. Raju, along with the entire family, continued the ritual and talisman magic. The blue light in the room disappeared, and the shadow gradually faded. Ankit sensed that the woman's spirit was now calming down. Maya was safe, and Sudha breathed a sigh of relief. But the magician warned, "You have calmed the spirit for a short while. This house will always be at risk. Stay alert." Ankit now understood that courage was their true protection. Even if the nights were frightening, he would no longer ignore the corners and darkness of the house. Every night, he ensured his sister's safety and faced the situation with a sense of security rather than fear. Ankit now fully understood. This house was not just for them, but also for the spirit of the woman who had been pregnant, whose death had turned the house into a haven for evil spirits. Sudha and Raju prepared with the entire family. The magician instructed, "Tonight you will confront the spirit. If you show fear, it will continue its havoc on your children." Around 3 in the morning, the family and the magician entered the room. Ankit held Maya in his arms. As soon as they stepped in, the cold air shook everyone. In the corner, the blue glow appeared, along with the same woman's shadow. "Why are you all here?" the shadow shouted. "It is not my work to hurt you, but I will stay with you." Ankit spoke softly. "We understand your grief. You lost your daughter. We are with you. Please do not harm us." The woman's shadow paused for a moment. The room's air began to warm, and the blue glow dimmed. The magician explained to the family, this spirit's name was Sumitra. She was pregnant and killed by her husband's anger. She never saw her child. Her spirit remained trapped in that pain. This house was chosen as the burial place. Whenever children or pregnant women come here, she expresses the sorrow of her failed motherhood. Sudha and Raju saw that the spirit was now calming down. Ankit whispered, "We understand your pain. Now we will not fear." Sumitra's shadow gradually faded. The room's air returned to normal. Utensils no longer fell. The broom did not move on its own. The magician said, "This spirit is now at peace. But remember, this house can always show glimpses of danger. Staying vigilant is your shield of protection." Ankit held Maya in his arms. Sudha looked at Raju and said, "For the first time we have protected ourselves and the children." Raju realized that only courage and understanding can overcome fear. The family thought that everything was finally over. But when the night deepened and everyone was asleep, Ankit saw a faint blue glow again near the distant window. He whispered, "Mom, I see. Someone is there again." Sudha laughed and said, "No, son. Nothing will happen now." But Ankit knew, some fears never fully disappear. They just quiet down, returning at the right moment. The story ends here. The family is safe, but the house will always hold shadows and mysteries.